Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Little Things by Frater Carl Thomas, an article from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 17, Number 1, February 1939. Little Things by Frater Carl Thomas. An old tale says that during the Revolutionary War in this country, General Rochambeau, to further his own personal interests, kept insisting that he met General Washington, and Washington was just as insistent in putting him off. Finally, however, Washington arranged a council of war, inviting Rochambeau and his staff. The council was dragged out so long that when Washington finally left to return to his headquarters, he made a detour from his usual route to save needed time. It was on this detour that Washington learned of Arnold's treacherous activities. Think what might have been if the ambitious Rochambeau had not been satisfied. Such a little thing in itself, but what vast potentialities were wrapped up in that little thing. Sometimes when we are talking to a friend, we are asked where we are getting our ideas. Then we will quote a book or magazine. But I have read that, the friend will say, and I didn't see any such thing. It is amazing how much people see and utterly fail to comprehend. We have all heard of the 5 blind men who were asked to describe an elephant. One felt the side and described the elephant accordingly. Another felt the trunk and said his friend must be mistaken for an elephant, is similar to a length of rope, etc. We are looking at the world through our own particular knothole, and are confident that what we see is a perfect and complete view of the whole. That little difference, called bias, is an impossible barrier for most of us. So many beginners in Rosicrucian study impatiently await the next lesson. They have heard so many wonderful things about the order and its work. What new mystery lies concealed in next week's lesson? They meet the postman at the door, and with trembling hands open the envelope. The lesson is literally devoured, huge chunks being gulped down without any attempt at mastication, rather like the conventional picture of the hurried businessman eating breakfast. The student is in such a hurry to see what is there that the next day he has no idea of what he has read. Or perhaps he snaps up some one phrase or sentence and considers himself a master of that particular lesson. And then when he gets to his examination papers, he says, "This must be a trick question. I didn't get anything like this in my lesson." No, he didn't get it, in spite of the fact that it was right under his nose all the time. If we can only keep before us the importance of the present moment, all that is necessary is that you make the most of each minute while you are still in that minute. Then there is the member who writes to headquarters saying that he has been studying his lessons faithfully and performing the experiments exactly according to instructions, yet a particular phase of his progress to date has been absolutely nil. Many of these members are answered with a tactfully worded letter suggesting that a searching examination of the member's personal life might help. Perhaps he should not be so violent in his thoughts towards his neighbor Jones, or he might be a little too intolerant regarding the corner grocer's political afflictions. The letter may even point out that he should be a little more temperate in one or more of his habits of personal conduct. Some members rescind this and say that surely the letter could not apply to them. Anyhow, even if it were true, how could a little thing like that have any bearing on psychic development? If it did not have, would any organization as complex and eternally busy as our order waste valuable time thoughtlessly and carelessly criticizing its members' personal lives? The old line about worthwhile things being obtained by the sweat of your brow is a very real thing. Almost every member looks up to some other member with a feeling very near to reverence. The things this member does, almost magical things, from where he sees it, makes us wonder even if a lifetime of training will enable us to do those things. We sit around and think how nice it would be if the same degree of attainment were ours. Comparatively, few students look beyond the surface and see the vast amount of blind seeking, the years of painstaking effort and experimentation, the countless sacrifices of the personal element that went into the building of that more or less high degree of attainment. Hero worship can be made a valuable quality if it is used as a spur to goad us on to greater achievement. We must remember that if our first 2 or 3 attempts at some new experiment fail, the failure is only apparent. For each time we repeat that experiment, we are just so much nearer to ultimate success. We spend a lifetime of restlessness, hurried search for some priceless jewel of thought or some principle that we can unconsciously know. If only we can find it, will repay us 1,000-fold for all the efforts of our search. We are journeying through a strange land, looking for the signpost of reassurance. In the course of our searching, we hear of the Rosicrucian order and avail ourselves of its knowledge. After a time, we find that book knowledge in itself is comparatively unimportant, that this is only scratching the surface of our ambitions. We have acquired a few rules, but what of their application? Where else can we look for the transforming elixir? In desperation, we try, being a good man, according to the conventional human standards. Perhaps we join some benevolent society, or go to church more often, or are a little more honest in our business dealings. That clears away a little of our chaff. But we are still far short of our goal. Why? What more do we lack? Perhaps what we seek is some intangible quality, something not bounded by materiality. Then gradually it dawns on us that the transmuting element is contained in a few little things that make for inner harmony. Things like spiritual loyalty and fidelity, soul loveliness, soul insight, forbearance, faith, hope, and charity. But the greatest of these is charity. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.